finally got my first electronic drum set, and this is the Roland TD-1K, and I want to talk about some of the pros and cons and how I feel about electronic drums. I am pretty much exclusively an acoustic drummer, besides a few occasions having played on electronic drum sets. I have never owned a proper one before. I had a multi-pad years ago that broke on me. This is sort of a little bit new territory to me, but I have over 10 years of experience playing acoustic drums, so that's my perspective, and that's kind of what I want from this. The main reason I got it is just for recording. You know, I do all these YouTube demos where I am programming drums usually. Sometimes I record acoustic drums, but many hours more work for a short demo that's going up on YouTube. It's not really worth it. But at the same time, programming drums on a keyboard is not as fun, and it just lacks some of the human touch. It's a different, you're almost playing a different instrument, and you're thinking about it differently. So I wanted something that was a drum kit that I can use drum software for and record directly to my computer. It also makes editing really easy because I can do that via MIDI. If I wanted to just quantize everything, I can. It's quiet. I can practice at any time. I've been playing way more, and honestly, that's one of the #1 reasons I'd say anyone should get an electronic drum set. Even though I have an acoustic kit here, you know, it's noisy. I can't play it at 2 in the morning. This thing, I can. I can play it anytime. And then being able to record right away from that and have great sounds while you're playing too. I mean, when I'm playing my acoustic kit, I'm typically either wearing in-ear monitors with a metronome, or I'm wearing earplugs, and that's it. So, in a way, this sounds a lot better. The drum software is very good, and I'm using Steven Slate Drums 5.5, which I did get the full version, but there's also a free version, and I tested that out first, and I was impressed, and I saw they had a big sale on. They're selling the full version for $100. That's a good price. It's a very good price, and if you see this, you should go get it if you need it. It's really good with something like this, and I've tested a few other softwares. I can get into that. But Slate is really good. The TD-1K. It is Roland's cheapest drum set and most limited too. It comes with all rubber pads. This mesh one I added myself. I got this for about half of what it would cost new. So I had some extra budget to upgrade things. Before I got this kit, I already built a kick drum tower out of an old snare drum, and I'll have a video on that. I have a kick pedal. I have, various drum hardware lying around. This has the rack, which is an all-in-one rack, which does present a little issues with crosstalk sometimes, but surprisingly, it's very minimal. It doesn't take up a lot of space, which I liked. I like the design of it. Some negatives, but I think it looks cool, and it's very small, compact for an electronic drum set. It's an interesting rack design. It's got 4 rubber pads. They're single zone, but they're quite nice. Definitely the mesh snare is a big upgrade, but I don't really mind the pads for the toms especially. They're pretty responsive. They're not going to capture every, really small roll, but they don't feel terrible. And the mesh snare is definitely better, but the rubber pads are pretty good. And it's all Roland, so I think the durability should be good. I can't really say for myself, but that's what I hear. If you want to know more about electronic drums, go to 65 Drums. Justin knows everything. I've been watching a ton of his videos to catch up my own knowledge. The cymbals are dual zone. They are 10-inch. These are the CY6. They have a bow area and a edge zone, and they have a choke. A lot of them have just single zone cymbals, and so that's quite nice. And I've programmed them in an interesting way, which works really well. The module itself, it does not have inputs. It has a cable snake, and it does have a second input for an extra crash. And also, if you are not using the kick input, I'm running that directly into my audio interface because I'm not running sounds off the module. It's solely for MIDI connection, which I know not everyone's going to do, but, this is how I'm using it as a MIDI controller. So my kick is running directly into the interface. So I used the extra input to put this old snare pad, since I replaced it, over here as an extra tom. The module is very limited. You can change the sensitivity, but it doesn't do other features like retrigger, crosstalk, you know, a lot of the things that are pretty standard in most modules. It has one sensitivity feature, and I don't know exactly what it does. You can select the pad type, which helps with compatibility. So I changed it for this PDX-8 that I added. You know, has some built-in compatibility. The only official upgrades for this are an extra cymbal, which is the same as the others. The PDX-6 or 8, or even the PDX-100 will work with this, as well as the KD-9 and 10. I bought an extra cymbal. That was another $100. Because they're 2-zone and chokeable, I thought about getting a cheaper single zone. And because it's dual zone, these all have multiple functions. So the way I have these set up, I have the hi-hat. That's just a hi-hat. My left cymbal, which is a china on the tip, and the edge is my crash left. Then I have the edge of my right cymbal is crash right. And then I have the tip of it here is the ride bell. And then I have the main ride bow over here on this extra cymbal that I added, and a splash there. So I have 2 crashes, a china, a splash, and both the ride bell and bow areas, and a hi-hat. And I've got 4 toms. So this is actually a bigger drum kit than my real drum kit, which doesn't have a china or a splash or 4 toms. Or even 3 toms. I only have 2 on it right now. So that's what I've done, and I've also got this. I picked this up used for $100. It's a PDX-8. It's Roland. It works really well with it. It's a dual zone, so that's got the rim shot sound too, which I could also change to, you know, like a side stick if I wanted to. Yeah, so the module is pretty simple, but it does allow me to change the MIDI notes. Here's my MIDI map here. For what I'm using, and this just allows me to immediately go into any drum software and you know, use general MIDI routing numbers, and it's right there, and it works. So that's really great. Let's take a look at how big this is, because I couldn't actually find like the footprint online. I had an idea of how big it is, but as I said, the cymbals are 10 inches. The main pads are about 7.5. The PDX-8 pad is about 10.5 altogether. I have this basically as high as it will go, as tall as it will go, and kind of as big and spread out as possible. So this is the biggest it gets, but it doesn't really get any bigger. And so it is a little, I wouldn't say it's small for me. It feels fine. It's not as big as a real drum kit, obviously, but I like having everything in arm's reach. For me, I don't think it feels too small. I'm not really a small guy. Just under 4 feet. It's about 3'8", really. To the edges of my cymbals is about 3 foot 5 inches. It's a little under 2 feet deep, and with my kick pedals and all, it's about 3 feet. So a pretty compact drum kit, pretty easy to transport because the whole thing is one rack. Now, I did have, when I added this extra tom on here on the left, for some reason, it was having some weird crosstalk issue I couldn't resolve with the hi-hat, so I ended up putting the hi-hat, if you can see here, on a stand. That works just fine, and it was a simple fix. I had one laying around. Maybe something to keep in mind. Other than that, I really haven't had any crosstalk issues. That was the only case, and I was doing something I wasn't supposed to do, I guess. So, you know, but no worries. I just put it on an extra cymbal stand, and you know, it really doesn't make the drum kit any bigger anyways. I would keep in mind that, you know, this kit starts at about 530 new, and that's without the mesh snare and without the kick tower. And I would say that's kind of a steep price at that point. If it was like 600 with the mesh snare and the kick tower, it'd be a really good deal. I think that whole configuration ends up being somewhere around, I don't know, 750 or so, 750, from what I remember. So you're definitely going to want a real kick tower, and I'm not sure everyone that will work with this Of course, in my case, I built my own and I'm running it to my interface. But I did try plugging my homemade kick tower into the module, and it did not work. So keep that in mind too, that if you do want to DIY it, I wouldn't count on it playing well with the module. Even when I cranked up the sensitivity, I had to really hit the kick tower hard in order to get it to trigger at all. Maybe if I had the piezo right in the center of the kick drum, but I have it off, which, I got the design idea from Roland anyways, but it's not compatible in this case. Now, it works fine. I'm using Slate Trigger. You can also use the stock Reaper audio to MIDI to, have a live trigger, and that works pretty well, but Slate Trigger is definitely a lot better. And that was on sale recently too, so I'm glad I got it. It's definitely way more accurate than the stock one in Reaper, but I can get the Reaper one to work pretty well too. It's close to as accurate, it's just not quite as sensitive. The hi-hat controller, it kind of sucks. Yeah, I don't really like it that well. It works fine. It's not broken. It does what it's supposed to do, but the design is just, I don't like it. It's a very light pedal with a spring under it, and you have to sort of push down on this, contact pad. It's like a CC control. I don't really know exactly the technology. I know it's the same sensor used in the FD8, also from Roland, but this is just a lighter housing. I think people have the same problem with the FD8 at some point too. I think mine's working fine, but it's not exactly the most sensitive, and it certainly doesn't feel like a real hi-hat. It's kind of this rubber thing that you smush down, and it's very strange. I've gotten kind of used to it. I've gotten so I can use it pretty well, but if I'm doing like fast, if I want to do like a 16th note hi-hat beat and throw in little open hats for accents, I can't count on it really being accurate. And I'm not sure if something like the Go eDrum hi-hat controller that mounts on a traditional hi-hat stand would work. I kind of want to try it, but I haven't right now. You can see it's pretty thin metal, and if you can see that sensor in there, it is sort of this rubber sensor that you push down on. And so here's the thing. From here to where that plate actually makes contact with the sensor, it does absolutely nothing, because you're just pressing on a piece of metal and it doesn't do anything in the software. So at that point, it's actually open. And I don't know why it isn't just kind of stuck there, but maybe it's hard to do that. So you've got this sort of all this travel that's just lost motion. It's just pointless. And then from there, you're actually pushing on this rubber thing, but it doesn't feel or respond like a real hi-hat would. Anyways, one little remedy I did was putting a zip tie inside. If you unscrew it here and take out this screw in the back, you can pull out the spring, and I zip tied some of the wraps of the spring together, make the spring a little bit weaker, so that it's a little more responsive. It kind of helps. It doesn't really do a whole lot, but it kind of helps. The kick drum pedal is kind of the same deal. It's, in my testing, it was actually a little better than I expected, but it's pretty bad. I expected it to be total rubbish, and it's just mostly rubbish. It's the same kind of thing where you've got a spring, and the spring is pretty loose. I mean, it definitely feels way lighter than a real kick pedal. It is silent, so, for what that's worth, that's good. It's a very simple design, probably won't break. But yeah, it's just a spring in there, and it hits a piezo, and there you go. It doesn't have the weight and the throw of a beater. You're making contact with stepping on something. So is it usable? Yeah. Is it all that fun? No, not really. And is it going to be really good training for developing your muscles and playing a real kick drum? Absolutely not. No. I'm framing all of this in a bit of the cons of it. The pros are I absolutely love it. I'm having so much fun. I've been practicing a lot. I've been, I can feel progress in my drumming because I've been playing so much. And that's worth so much. And being able to record basically silently into my computer to edit via MIDI rather than acoustic drum stems. In that sense, yeah, I absolutely love it. And I love playing with slate drums. It's the best I've tried for this. Yeah, I think I might have to do another video on drum software because, otherwise this is already going to be too long. But if you were able to get a drum kit like this for what I paid for it, you would love it too. But, I would say go on Facebook Marketplace or something. I wanted to buy Roland because the reliability is there and I love Boss pedals, so I like the brand. Are they the most expensive? Yeah, pretty much. But since this is their cheapest drum kit, it was affordable. And I got, as I said, a really good price on it used. So if you can find a used Roland TD-1K, go for it. But do budget the snare. And again, I got this one used for $100 in excellent condition. I will show you how to build a kick tower. I would recommend it if you have the parts and you have some DIY skills and you want to mess around with it. It's pretty easy to get something that is really very high quality for very cheap if you know what you're doing. And it will take a few hours altogether. And I had to build a stand. I had to build the drum itself. So you're looking at either spending money on hardware versus doing it yourself. You might want to just get the Roland KT9, I don't know if it's KT or KD, whatever, their kick tower, the 9 or 10, or even the 8, though I think the 9 and the 10 are officially supported on this, whatever that means. I would definitely expect with the TD-1K to get, you're going to probably want a mesh snare, though it's not terrible without it. I still had a lot of fun playing it. But having put this on it, I'm not going back. I don't feel the need to put all mesh pads on it. But the mesh snare, good idea. And the kick tower, for sure. You're going to need that because that kick drum is bad. Also, there's no real official hi-hat upgrade. Maybe I'll try the Go E-Drums one that works on a hi-hat stand. Maybe that'll work, or maybe I'll just live with it. For right now, I think I'll just live with it. Overall, I would say really good. I wish Roland would sell it for cheaper or include more with it. The module it does the job fine. I have no problems with it as a MIDI controller. As a drum module, it's not very good, but it's not very bad either. It doesn't mess me up. The sensitivity, the triggering is there. I have no problems with retriggering, the sensitivity. Whatever the settings are, they're pretty great. You can adjust the sensitivity a little bit. It mostly seems to affect the velocity sent to the PC. It doesn't really seem to affect the other settings very much. But I haven't had any problems with like retriggering. I have very little crosstalk issues except for this one that I couldn't quite fix, which is annoying. It gets the job done. You can play fast. You can play rolls. There's no problem with that. So it's not a bad module, but it doesn't really have any kind of advanced features, and it relies on a proprietary sort of cable snake, so you can't really expand it too much. In my case, I got 2 inputs out of it only because I'm running the kick tower into my computer. But if you're relying on the module alone, then yeah, you're only going to get 1. And I could always add extra pads and run them into my interface anyways. So the only issue with the cymbals, the edge sensitivity, if you're trying to do like cymbal swells on the edge, yeah, you're not really going to get a lot of volume sensitivity there. It tends to default to the main sound, and the edge sensor, you have to hit it kind of hard, which is fine for crashes. That's what I use it for. But if I want to do crash swells, not really going to get that there. You're going to have to map that to the main zone if you want to really get sort of nice cymbal swells. But whatever, you know, I can do that in post-processing too. So that's not a big deal, but, you know, it's something. The hi-hat controller's pretty awful, but it works. Functional, but awful. The kick drum pedal is the same. Totally functional, but also pretty awful. Doesn't feel high quality. I don't think anything's probably going to break, but, you know, for a Roland product, it feels pretty cheap, and, you know, it works fine. I can't say it's bad, but I can't say it's fun to play or that I would ever use it. So, you know, you kind of have to expect that you're getting a kick tower. So, yeah. Anyways, I think that covers all the bases with this drum kit, and I'm going to have some other videos on more specialized topics. So, like and subscribe if you want, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.